Grace, America. I'm winging my way back from Louisville, and I'll tell you tomorrow about how it went with Bobby Jindal and Mitch McConnell. But in the meantime, news happens, and on the election eve that approaches, no better person to tell you where we stand in all the different races than Congressman John Campbell. Take it away, Congressman.
Thank you, Hugh. Morning glory and evening grace, America. Well, there is somebody better than me to tell you about the congressional races, and we have that person on the line with us now, and that is the gentleman from Oregon, Congressman Greg Walden, who is the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Welcome to the Hugh Hewitt Show, Greg.
Hey, John, it's good to be with you. You know, it's kind of funny. I used to do radio for 22 years, and you did other things, and now it's sort of reversed.
There you go. Yeah. See, I've always wanted to be more like you. So.
Oh no, you've been successful.
So that's what I'm doing now. Well, I don't know. This is. You have to talk to listeners to tell them find out whether I'm successful at this or not. Well, Greg, let's get right into it. You know, we've been talking a lot about the Senate races and some of the governor's races, but there is another house out there, I believe, and we have the majority, but we need to keep it and we need to expand it if we can. My first question for you is this. I've read a lot that Democratic money is moving around these days and in the House races, and that they've pulled out of various things and they're putting money in other different things. And I always think it's very telling what the other side is doing. Where are the Democrats pulling away, and where are they deciding to put money in here late before the election?
Well, it's a really good question, John, and what I will tell you, pardon me, and I'm fighting a little cold, but from about the 30,000-foot level, we are in deep blue districts. 78% of our money at the National Republican Congressional Committee, the NRCC.org, is on offense. We are playing in deep Democrat districts. As a result, they're having to come in and back up Democrats that they never thought would be in trouble. I mean, they just put another big chunk of dough into Amy Bear. They're coming in after Carl DeMille. They're coming in.
Greg,
they're into seats that they're having to put money into Hawaii. Barack Obama won that Hawaii district by 71%. They're having to come try and save Nick Hall, who's been in Congress 387,000 years. I mean, in West Virginia. I mean, they're into places where they've never had to spend a dime, never had to worry before, because Barack Obama's policies are being voted on in this election.
So are they pulling out of some of the races that would be offense races for them, where they're trying to take out our incumbent?
Pulling out is the understatement. It's complete retreat, retrenchment. They're running scared. I'll give you some examples. Rodney Davis in Illinois, one of their most biggest recruits, Ann Callis, a sitting judge. She resigns, runs against Rodney. Rodney won by, 49% Very, very close race, one of the closest last time. By the time he was done, and by the time their candidate failed, they had to bail out of a district they crowed about winning. I'm in New York right now, in Syracuse. John Katko, who's a terrific prosecutor, run against Dan Maffei. This is a D+5 district. They are in here trying to defend a guy who doesn't have much to show for his service, who's never won in a non-presidential year. And so this is deep blue territory we're playing in, and we can win this seat. Steve Israel, the head of the Democratic Committee, said the road to their majority coming back ran right through New York. John, we're going to pick up upwards of 4 seats in New York.
4 seats in New York. Because one of the things we're always talking, about North Carolina and Iowa and Arkansas and stuff like that. But we have affiliates here in Hawaii. We have affiliates in California. We have affiliates listening to this show in Illinois, in New York. And these people would love to know, wow, you mean my vote might matter? Wow, my check might matter. I might be able to make a difference finally in my deep blue home state and affect things in Washington. So let's talk about a few more of those deep blue seats that maybe where we now appear to have a shot.
Mike Boss down in the very southern tip of Illinois against Inyard. Mike Boss, state senator, he is knocking it out of the park. They've thrown everything, including the kitchen sink and probably the J-trap under it, at him. He is ahead of Inyard, who just has never connected with his district. He's a freshman Democrat, voted for the Obama policies. and Mike Boss. There's a race that we can go with. Bob Dole in the suburbs of Chicago outperformed Mitt Romney in 2012 by 7 or 8 points and still lost. He's coming back against the guy who beat him, Brad Schneider. Brad Schneider has nothing to show other than he's an Obama clone. Obama's not on the ballot. His policies are. They're not popular. Bob Gold is going to pick back up that seat. That's just two.
Let me stop because you're talking about Illinois. There's a big governor's race on top.
Right.
How is that affecting the congressional races if you're in a state where there's a big statewide race going on?
So Bruce Rauner, who's running for governor against Quinn, is doing very well in the districts where we're competing. Quinn's having a real negative downdraft on the Democrats. Even Sherry Bustos is in trouble. She's running against Bobby Schilling and beat Bobby in 12. Bobby is on his way back. I mean, because remember, redistricting occurred pretty brutally against Republicans as the Democrats gerrymandered Illinois.
Right. Oh, yeah, it was awful. Yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
Bobby agreed to run again. He's a great guy. Bobby Schilling, Sherry Bustos rematch. She's had all kinds of problems, and all of a sudden, she's losing ground. And so, I mean, you see, you got 3 or 4 races in Illinois. Darlene Sanger in Illinois doing a great job. I mean, we got multiple pickup opportunities there.
Now, in New York, in California, you mentioned Hawaii. That's Charles DeJoux again in Hawaii, isn't it?
It is Charles DeJoux. It is. He's either dead even or 1 or 2 points up. And the NRCC is in there. The DCCC had to come in. When the Democrats have to come into a race like that, you know how deeply they're on defense. We're in Minnesota. There are 2 pickup seats. I'll be in them tomorrow. Tory Westrom against Colin Peterson and Stuart Mills against Rick Nolan in the Iron Range up in Duluth. So Tory Peterson blinded in a farm accident when he was 14. He goes on to go to college. He gets elected to the state legislature. He goes through law school, becomes a lawyer, remember, fully blinded, gets elected to the state senate, takes on an incumbent who's been there a very long time. Tory Westrom is now up 1 point on a guy nobody thought could ever get in trouble, Colin Peterson. But people found out he'd paid himself hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever it is, so he could fly his own plane around his district. He leased not 1 but 2 cars at taxpayer expense. I mean, he voted for cap and trade. He thinks Medicare should be scrapped. I mean, nobody had ever challenged him before in an effective way. We have. The Democrats had to come in with over nearly $3 million to try and save him. I don't know if they're going to get that done. Tory's a terrific candidate. Stuart Mills Fleet Farms all across the upper Midwest. Stuart understands what Obamacare means to business because he administers all their plans in his company's business. They've got 6,000 employees. He said, I'm not standing for this. We got to change this. And so he is actually ahead of Rick Nolan up in Duluth and up in the upper Iron Range of Minnesota. So 2 races in Minnesota we could go in.
Now we talked about the effect of the governor's race in Illinois on those, and I know you've got the Franken Senate race, and even though that's a real long shot for Republicans, it shouldn't be a race, and it is, and that's probably helping in Minnesota. But in places like New York and California, where you've mentioned seats, there aren't big statewide races that are
right,
that are pushing one way or the other. So how do you see? Do you see any trends in those big blue states?
Yeah, we do. We've spent the last 2 years at the NRCC working on how to catch up on data and digital and turnout. Democrats got ahead of us. We've now figured it out. And so we're modeling every day the rates of return on absentee ballots, early voting, where we need to go on our vote goals. We've never had this capability before. In many of these districts, remember, we're not running statewide, so we're really narrowly focused. We have great ground game. We're monitoring early voting or absentee ballots, and it is really exciting what we're seeing. We've got to keep fighting, though. I mean, none of these is going to be a blowout, but there are a whole bunch of seats in California, Illinois, New York, Minnesota, Florida. I don't know if you got listeners down in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Carlos Covello, Steve Sutherland. Those are the 2 races. People need to do everything they can to help. Carlos, 32 years old, family escaped Cuba, and he's on a school board down there in the Miami area. Terrific young man, and will make a great member of Congress. Steve Sutherland, of course, our colleague, locked in a tough race there. Steve's going to win that, but he needs all the help he can get. So we got opportunities there. Down on the Texas border, John, is a guy named Will Hurd. Will is a former CIA undercover operative who used to walk the streets of Pakistan doing his thing and ran our operations in Afghanistan. Comes back to America, back home, and doesn't like what he sees when it comes to how veterans are treated and military and everything else. So he's running down on the border near Eagle Pass and San Antonio and that area, Castroville. And that is the seat we are going to pick up. He's a terrific young man.
Greg Walden, chairman of the NRCC, thank you so much for being with us. Save your voice. You're going to be in Minnesota. We have a big listenership there. All of you see Greg Walden. We'll be right back, America.